Rich Ortiz here with the fighter's voice, the only voice that matters. You have that fighter on you right now. You have that. Talk about Mexican Independence Day. We can call this Teddy Atlas here in Las Vegas, Nevada. You heard it from the champion himself, simply knocking out the competition. Not Rich Ortiz here with the fighter's voice, the only voice that matters. And like Eddie
Lopez, because Josh Taylor is
the 4th division world champion, Mikey Garcia. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Richard Ortiz of The Fighter's Voice, the only voice that matters. And I'm like our guest tonight, Bobby Benton. We're simply knocking out the competition. Tonight's guest has been involved in boxing for 25 years. He's worked with many amateurs, gold medalists, world champions, and the list goes on. And he could also be your personal fitness coach if need be. Has his own gym and just came off a big event with Regis Prograis and Devin Haney. Nevertheless, you win some, you lose some, but he didn't only make Regis Prograis champion one time, but 2 times. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk to Bobby, get his take on boxing, what it needs today, and how the game plan was going into that big fight. Enough said. Welcome to the Fighter's Voice, Bobby.
Hey, how you doing, bud?
Doing good, man. I want to ask you a question that's just beside anything else. It's kind of a shout out for this certain restaurant, man. San Francisco, California. I'm leaving. You're walking into that burger place. Tell us about that burger place, man. And you were right. Those hamburgers are delicious,
man. Which burger place?
The one where I was leaving and you were walking in. And you said, this is our second time here in San Francisco. You were just tearing up the burger, man. And it's just enough said. Then I'll put it aside. Well, they do have some good food in San Francisco.
Yeah, there was great. Probably the best pizza I've ever had in my life. I had there at Tony's. It was that's by far the best pizza I've ever had. So
yeah, I know they do got good pizza there, good hot dogs, etc. But since we're talking about food, let's talk about the food of boxing. What feeds boxing today? What I know it's a business, but in your opinion, why is boxing starting to survive? When I say survive, and pass, and we're starting now to get the big fights. Why is that? And who started it?
I think you guys, the media is forcing it. You know, it's kind of it's getting to where everybody wants to see it, but there's still a lot of big fights to be made. But yeah, I think you guys the media is kind of forcing it. The social media is really kind of forcing it. You know, people are. I mean, you look at the YouTubers and all that stuff. They're bringing in new fans, so it's. I think that's what's happening.
You know, that is one step of it, but another step is these fighters just accepting and calling out one another. And when they call each other out, I mean, they really mean it. There's some that really want the big names. They want to test their skills. And you know, kudos to Ryan Garcia. And you know, we finally got Bud Crawford and Errol Spence. Regis Prograis, he didn't think twice about taking on Devin Haney, the younger of the two, and just didn't question any of his skills at all because, Regis is a warrior. He's a beast. He'll step in there with anybody in the division.
Definitely is. There's no doubt about that.
So you've been around boxing for a long time. We think about the 80s, the great fights in the 80s, late 80s, and then the 90s, and now, in your opinion, what's keeping boxing active? What's keeping boxing alive?
I mean, boxing has never died. I don't know why everybody keeps saying that. The biggest, I mean, the most money made in one night is off of boxing events. You look at all the guys. I mean, it's just these guys like Canelo. What fighter can bring that kind of atmosphere? Or what other sport in one night can bring that much money in? So it's I don't know. Everybody keeps saying it's dying. I haven't seen it die yet. It's been yeah, of course the UFC has came in and they got a younger crowd, but I think with the YouTubers, like I said, they're bringing some young guys back to boxing too. So I don't see it dying. I don't know. I mean, I just never I've been in it my whole life, and I mean, Floyd Mayweather made $100 million in one night. So I don't know what other sport can do that.
I agree with you. I don't believe it was ever dying. I asked the questions that need to be asked, and I agree with you. In one night, he made. And some people, now you got to be a baseball player or a high end athlete to make that, but you make that over 4 or 5 years, and this guy made it in less than an hour, doing what he
Right.
does, and he's definitely changed the sport and make it more business. And the decisions he makes, he never tips his hat to the public. He always has you thinking, and then all of a sudden, he just surprises you.
Definitely.
How would you compare today's sweet science to the sweet science of when we had the Four Kings, the Sugar Ray Leonards, the Tommy Hearns, the Roberto Durans, and Marvin Haglers? They all fought each other, but they needed each other to be great. What does this era need?
Same thing. I mean, and I think it is like you said, it's coming back. Look, we got Spence and Crawford, and Ryan is calling out Haney. That's another big fight. Hopefully Tank can get in the mix with them too. But that's all we've ever wanted was to have big fights. So Regis had his shot at Haney, and that was a big night for us. We fell short, but it's all right. He'll be back. He's going to win the world title again. So
Oh, well, that's his goal, to be a three-time world champion. I spoke to him briefly, and he seems to be in good spirits. When he's alone, like any other man or woman, they start to get deep thoughts, and that's the healing process. That's the process. That's the mental process where you step out and say, okay, put your boots back on and give it another go.
yeah, definitely, definitely. It's easy to cop out, but he's never been that guy. He's going to bounce right back and hopefully get right back in the mix.
I agree with you. I want to ask you this, and some of these questions that I do got to ask is, first of all, because of you, he became a world champion. And I said it in the top of the dialogue, not once, but twice. And now we're chasing history, chasing a third time. Knowing that you're a part of that recipe, a strong part of that recipe, how does that make you feel?
Oh, it feels great. It's definitely it was a long process from day one to the second world title to now we got to get back in line. But it's definitely been it's a tough process, but we kind of blue collared it our way through. We didn't have a big time promoters pushing us or nothing, so we had to blue collar it, I call it. So it's a tough road, but we did it.
I was surprised, and I'm going to ask this question. What did you think about the? How did you feel about the corner switch?
I mean, it is what it is. That's what Regis wanted, and I'm not an ego guy, so we talked about it. He said that's what he wanted, and that's what we went with.
No, enough said. What did you think about the game plan that was laid out that you guys put together for Regis?
I mean, in the gym, he looked great. Honestly, I think we had too long of a camp, though. I think 4 months was too long. Um, we've never had that long of a camp, but that just shows you how bad he wanted to win. He it was hard for him not to be in the gym. But we have a 8 week camp with 2 weeks. It's just like fundamentals. We start with the basics, and then 6 weeks. Our camp is really 6 weeks, like sparring and training and everything. But this one, he started early and he just ran with it. So
Did you have any concerns personally going in at all? Like, okay, this is a long camp. Um, I'm going to take caution to the wind based on your experience.
definitely, I tried to slow it down as much as I could. But like I said, he was gung ho. He was ready to go. He was fired up. So that's the hard part. Is getting him to slow down when he says no, I feel good. I feel good. So, but no excuses. There's no Haney beat us. And no excuses.
Well, I mean, Haney's performance, Haney would have beat anybody that night. That was the best Haney we've ever seen. Regis Prograis faced the best Devin Haney. He peaked that night. That was the best he ever looked, ever in his whole entire life. I know he's going to go on and fight and look better and have bigger fights, But it started with Regis. Regis faced a Devin Haney that could have beat anybody in that 140-pound division.
Yeah, I think everybody Regis fights is like that. I mean, everybody he's fought. Josh Taylor, that was the best Josh Taylor, and honestly, Josh Taylor hasn't looked the same since then. But and then you've got Cepeda. Cepeda, that was his best. That was the best I ever seen him, and you know, like I said, I think people know Regis is a real fighter, and they know they're going to be a tough fight, so they come ready.
Yeah, and they definitely have a game plan to avoid that power when it goes in there. You spoke to him after the fight. How long do you think of how much time would you think he'll take off? When do we see Regis back in the ring? You can go ahead and guesstimate.
Um, April, May, maybe. I mean, for me, I want him to take a long break, But like I said, it's gonna be hard for him because he's driven, he's self motivated, so and he'll still be working out, but just take some time with his family. That's what I told him. I was like, just enjoy this time off. I know it's gonna be hard. You're gonna have thoughts, but just try and enjoy yourself. And then when the time's right, we'll come back. But the longer, the better. I think after this one.
Yeah, fighters they take some time off, and as Errol Spence took some time off, and that fight is going to take place. They're going to give a date soon. They kind of guesstimated a date. And do you think when a fighter takes a hard loss, when I say a hard loss, not a beating, but a hard personal loss, is it better to take as much time off as possible, or do you think collecting themselves as soon as they can mentally to get back in the ring? What would be your advice?
It depends. It depends what kind of for me what kind of fight it was. For like this one, like the long camp. Yeah, I definitely think Regis should take some time off just to let his body recover from that hard camp. But he really didn't take much of a beating. I mean, we lost, but it wasn't to me. It was never any danger or anything. But this one, just because the camp was so long, yeah, I'd like for him to take off. But everybody's different. Everybody's different. Some guys want to jump right
Yeah.
back in, and they do better off of that.
Let me clarify something. When I was saying taking a beating, I was giving in reference to Errol Spence, how he's in a fight coming back from against Bud Crawford. So I should have clarified that right
That was
there. No,
definitely a rough
Regis,
one. Yes.
yeah, it definitely was. What did Regis need that night, in your opinion? And then we're going to move off this subject.
I
What did he need that
yeah,
night?
I don't know. I mean, I know in my mind I kind of have ideas, but I can't say anything. Haney just beat us. We couldn't. He was beating us to the punch. We couldn't get off. Um, couldn't really pull the trigger at the right times. But I don't know.
Well,
I mean, in my mind, I know what we could have done. I think we could have boxed it a little bit more, made it a little more boring, kind of stayed away. But the game plan was to press him. So
where does, as you said, he's a third time world champion for the third time. What's a good matchup out there for him?
anybody else, I mean, they obviously the guys are going to try to move around on us, but Paro would be a great fight for us. Um, I mean, Rolly, I think is that's an easy fight for Regis. That's a mismatch. But and Ryan, I mean, Ryan would be a good fight for us. If they can't make the fight with him and Haney, maybe that'll work out. So
If Rolly vacates, a great matchup, in my opinion, would be Regis Prograis and Arnold Barboza.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's another one that's right there, ready to try to break through win the world title and stuff. Yeah, for sure.
This fight could have been a grudge match, will be a grudge match. Does this fight happen in 2024? I'm going to mention a name, Jose Ramirez.
No, I doubt it. I don't think he'll ever fight Regis. I mean, for me, I've always said it. I think Ramirez is like tailor made for Regis. Like if I'm ever gonna have a guy that I'm gonna pick, it's Jose Ramirez, and I think they knew that, and that's why they avoided it so long.
We got Virgil Ortiz making his long-awaited return to the boxing ring. Not coming in at 147 pounds, but moving up to 154 pounds. In your opinion, will we see the best Virgil Ortiz at the higher weight class?
Maybe better, maybe better than he's ever been because of that. I think. I mean, look at Haney. Haney was struggling to make weight and all that, and then now you look at him at 40, and he looked great.
Yeah.
Sometimes, killing yourself to make the weight and not letting their body, grow like it's supposed to. I think the kids do that as amateurs too. They never reach their full potential because of that. Constantly making weight, instead of letting their bodies grow into what they're supposed to be.
We got a big fight coming up this Saturday. We have Deontay Wilder, the co-main event, and in the main event we got Anthony Joshua. They both have respectable opponents. How much of a distraction is that they're supposed to make an announcement by Saturday, a 2-fight deal that starts in March where they're fighting each other? How much of a distraction is that when you have an opponent, a live opponent right in front of you, yet you're signing a contract to fight the winner as if to say, hey, I already won this fight, not once but twice?
It definitely can be a distraction. I mean, I've seen it done a bunch of times where you look ahead, but those guys are. I mean, I feel like that they're doing the right thing. If they're going to win, I feel but Joshua and Wallen, even without mentioning that, I think Wallen's tough, man. He's a beast. So
I agree.
if if he's not on his A game, he could possibly come up short.
Yeah, that's not an easy task.
Definitely not.
There's rumors that hasn't been officially announced, but Teofimo Lopez taking on Ortiz, and that is not an easy fight.
No,
Not Virgil
Jermaine
Ortiz.
Ortiz Jermaine Ortiz. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He gave Loma some concern. He dethroned Herring, and I mean,
Right.
he's no hey, he's no stepping stone. I mean, he's coming to
No,
fight. He's coming to win.
definitely is. But like, if Teofimo's on his game, I think he wins. It's not going to be an easy fight, but I think he wins.
What's the fight to be made in the 140-pound division, in your opinion?
Tank and Haney is probably the biggest fight. Tank, Haney, and Teofimo. Any of those three is the biggest fight at 40.
Why does one put stipulations as far as a weight clause? Why is that done? Because you're concerned on how much weight they'll put on, or you want to get any advantage that you can?
A little bit of both. You look at. I mean, you try to win every little battle. I do, anyways. Every the weight from every little small win you can get, you try to take advantage of it, and I think that's part of it. But I think also too, like with the rehydration stuff. I mean, obviously Ryan definitely didn't feel as good as he could have, and he put on all the weight he could have. They kept the weight down. So I mean, they did the same thing with Pacquiao and De La Hoya, if you remember. They made him, he could only gain a certain amount of weight, and look how, I mean, he just couldn't pull the trigger. He didn't have enough gas in the tank.
His legs looked like noodles that night.
Yeah.
Before any punch was thrown.
Definitely.
And back in the day, Sugar Ray Leonard, he invented the catch weight. I mean, he had Donnie Lalonde risk his light heavyweight championship, but not at a true 175 pounds. Brought him down to, I believe it was like I believe that's why they made the 168 pound
72 or something like that.
Yeah, they brought him down. And Donnie Lalonde, of course,
yeah. Donnie is a good friend of mine. He's a great guy. And I mean, he had Sugar Ray down, and I mean, it was just but yeah, like you said, he couldn't step on the gas like he normally could.
why he started to fade the second half of the fight because of that's when that weight right there that you can't, bring yourself down, who's naturally a 175 pounder, possibly even a cruiserweight is where he ended his career. I mean, you're not just fighting your opponent, you're fighting self.
Definitely. 100%.
No, but Donnie did have him. He was moving him. He was the bigger man. He was giving him some trouble there. And I remember he had that campaign, no excuse against child abuse, and he would put it on his shorts. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I mean, Sugar Ray would always have those clauses about, okay, certain amount of weight, and he was the shot caller back then. He was definitely the A side, the gloves to wear, the size of the ring, and
Yeah, with
that was
Hagler,
his
he
stuff.
gave up everything too.
Well, I mean, he
Yeah,
was the
Hagler
last
gave up
child.
everything on that.
He was the limelight. Yes, exactly. You know what? Donnie Lalonde ended his career, I believe, at cruiserweight, and he had a good ride. I mean, he was one of
Definitely.
the pretty faces outside of the ring. I mean, to be a model actor and then put your face at risk inside of the ring and still taking care of business.
Yeah. He's a great guy too.
What's your take on celebrity boxing? Celebrities or someone that's really not a true fighter, and they want to take care of their grudge match inside of the ring, or maybe I would love to see a dream match between charity match between, I know they're boys, Mario Lopez and Mark Wahlberg. I mean, that would be a great matchup.
I'm all for it. Listen, guys get upset and they talk about it, but I'm okay with it. I feel like it brings I mean, look at Jake Paul's done, and he's actually getting better, guys.
Yeah.
He's training like a fighter, so how can you deny him? And he's like I said, he's bringing these guys are bringing the young guys back to boxing, and when before it was all they cared about was the UFC. So, I mean, even like my kids' friends are like, they're like, oh, my dad's a boxing trainer. Oh yeah, Jake Paul, like like that's like the boxer that they know, and that's okay, and
it,
I'm
it is
okay with that. So
it is okay. I recently asked a eighth grader, I said, hey bud, who's your favorite fighter? And he said Jake Paul. Didn't say Mike Tyson, didn't say Jose Ramirez, Regis Prograis, or you know any of our Ryan. He said Jake Paul. Why?
right,
Because they're on the social media. There's a great following, and if you fight Jake Paul, you're going to get paid. And I love what he's doing for female boxing. I love the stand that he's taking. So he is giving back.
definitely.
Love him or hate him, he's doing exactly what he needs to do as a fighter. He surrounds himself with great fighters, great camps, professional cutmen, guys that have been in there. And he'll tell you he's learning as he goes. He sets his goals high, and people aren't really laughing anymore when he says, this is what I want to do. People are more hating, and they need to get over that stuff, because who who are we to deny a man that is wants a dream and is chasing it? He's keeping the American dream alive by saying, hey, you may not have had an amateur background or professional background, but who's going to stop you from going inside of the ring if you mentally, physically prepare yourself?
They shouldn't be able to. I mean, look, I'll give you I'll give you an example, a perfect example. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He had his first few fights down here in Houston, and I was there, and I'm like, this kid's terrible. He sucks. He's not. There's no way. He went on to win the world title and almost knocked out Sergio Martinez in the last round
I remember that.
in a fight where he was getting dominated. But still, like they took him and they took their time. They developed him just like Jake Paul's doing. I mean, if you got money, you can do it. It's just a process. In the end, he's got to be willing to do it. And the kid at some time, like at that time, he worked so hard. Like the process of him seeing him train was like he trained so hard. He worked, and then he got to where he was at the top, and he didn't want to train anymore.
Yeah, I remember that incident where he's wearing his calzones eating cereal. And Freddie Roach was like, "Bro, where you at? We have training that day." And that was during the Sergio Martinez camp. That's when we would have that HBO. It was a 24/7, I believe it was. And
Yes.
you know what? That actually be a
Yeah.
great matchup right now. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and Jake Paul. He was recently just at a Wild Card Gym training.
Yeah, it could be. That could be interesting.
Yeah, I can't
I
believe,
mean, if I had Jake Paul, I'd slow way down with him. Like he fought a guy from Houston, actually. It's Andre August. I think he's from Beaumont, but and
yeah.
Andre's he's a real boxer. He's not a he had some amateur fights. He was developed. I think he was like 5-0, 6-0, and then he took a loss but he's a 9-1 guy and a real guy. I mean, he Jake Paul just beat a real boxer, so.
Well, I mean, hey, I told Devin Haney's dad, Bill Haney, the other day. I said, let's give credit where credit is due, and because I had made a statement and I had said, Devin Haney reminds me of a modern day. I've always made the comparison, modern day Terry Norris, and I said after Saturday, Devin Haney reminds me of a modern day Devin Haney. So, and I said, let's give credit where credit is due because it was a Picasso. I mean, it was. He was at his best that night, and Regis Prograis faced one of the best boxers in the world that peaked that night because of who he is. Because of Regis, Devin Haney went that extra mile. Devin Haney sacrificed himself. He put in the work. He came in mentally prepared because he knew all it would take was half a second. And in boxing, we have a small window, and he stuck to the game plan. And, I take my hat off to, Team Haney. They fought a good fight, no harm, no foul. And, Regis will go on. And now he's chasing a legacy. Now he is chasing history because he wants that third opportunity to become a 3-time world champion. And I believe when he gets that opportunity, that hunger, that sting is all going to be displayed inside of the ring. And you're going to see those hands just moving like they've never moved before.
Definitely.
Tell us, how did you first meet Regis Prograis? When did you know you would work together? What did you see special in him? And where do you see him in 2024?
My first memory of Regis was he was still in high school, and I used to run my guys at 5 a.m. at Memorial Park out here to park all the guys run at. And he was out there running before school, and I was like, so the trainer at the time was Jay John, who ended up being his manager. I said that kid's gonna do something. What kid is in high school getting up going to run before he's before he's going to school? Not a lot of them are doing that. I mean, there were some, but not a lot of them. And then, fast forward, I don't know how long later it was, maybe 7 or 8 years later, Regis had turned pro, and he was like 5-0 at the time. Jay John called me. Regis always came over and sparred my guys, and I was like, the kid's just tough, Jay John called me and said, "Hey, do you want to train Regis?" And I said, "Absolutely." So that's how that started. And then in 2024, I see him being a winning his third world title.
If you could play matchmaker and give Regis that third opportunity, what matchup would you put inside of the ring with Regis Prograis? What opponent?
I'd go Rolly, but Ramirez also, either one of them would be fine.
Well, what happens if Ramirez fights Rolly?
I think Ramirez wins easy.
Will he ever fight Josh Taylor again? Do you see that happening possibly at 147 pounds before it's all said and done?
Who, Regis?
Yes, Regis.
No, I think he wants to stay at 140. I mean, he's making 40 easy. I think the only way he'd go up to 47 if it was for, a big money fight. He has no trouble making 40 now. He brought in a nutritionist, and since then this last time was the easiest time he made weight. So.
Yeah. I mean, that has a lot to do with it too. And he has stated to me that he does want to stay at 140. I don't see Josh Taylor coming down, but these are the questions that were coming in, and I want to ask those questions. And this question for you is, if you can enter the ring today, you were asked for maybe possibly, a charity match. Who would be in your corner?
In my corner,
Yeah, who would be in your corner training you?
Aaron Navarro.
Who would be your cut man?
Well, he works cuts also. So, but if Aaron wasn't my cut man, it'd be Mike Rodriguez. Um, I don't know, maybe Lencho Adame would be what cuts for me. So one of those guys would be in my corner.
I think excellent choice of Mike Rodriguez. I think he's one of the best in the world.
Definitely.
Now, what would be your walkout song?
I don't know. I'm not a big flashy guy or any of that, so I don't know. I mean, I couldn't tell you.
Smoke on the Water?
So maybe Rocky song, or it's a theme song for Rocky, maybe. I don't know.
And who would you love to share the ring with?
Oh, if I could fight anybody?
Yeah, absolutely.
Marvin Hagler. That's my favorite fighter, so.
Okay. There you go. It's tough as nails. I remember when we lost Marvin, they gave him a 10 count. And I can't believe who it was. I don't know, it was Brad Jacobs or somebody from Top Rank said they should have just kept going because Marvin Hagler never faced a 10 count in his whole life. Should have
Never.
just given tribute with no count because he's never been knocked out in his whole life. And you really had to give that some thought if you knew Marvin Hagler. I mean, his chin was made of iron, and he just had that will. I mean, he would neutralize people, whether they were faster than him, stronger than him. He came to fight. He had that mental will. I mean, who takes it to Tommy Hearns when Tommy Hearns was dropping people with that wicked right hand? Marvin took it right to him as if to say, hey,
right.
I'm going to put you on your back foot.
Yeah, he definitely walked through a couple of heavy right hands too. So
a couple of uppercuts too. What does boxing need today? It's going in higher places than it's ever gone before today that we're living in. But what does it need? What does it need
for
to
me,
keep?
I think boxing needs. Well, obviously the networks are all going away, but I think the reason that happens is because the networks they sign up to one promoter, you know, so they're locked into their guys. If you go back in the 80s, in the 90s, any fighter could fight on HBO or Showtime. There wasn't a designated promoter to a network, so they could make the biggest fights, and everybody wanted to be on HBO, and everybody wanted to be on Showtime. And even like in the ESPN days, there was so many promoters. The guys found their way to get on HBO through ESPN.
Yeah, that in Tuesday Night Fights, Sean O'Grady, USA.
Yeah, USA, definitely.
And then
Definitely Tuesday
foreign
Night Fights.
boxing, was also going on. And I mean, we get boxing on Tuesday nights, on Thursdays, and just love the
Yeah,
whole card.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's ever going to come back because of the stream.
Yeah.
And I don't know if pay-per-view is ever going to be as big as it was because of all the, it's too easy to steal the, to stream it. The guys, you don't have to pay for. Guys know how to, they find a stream and they get into it. So guys don't have to pay for it. I mean, I don't think the pay-per-view will ever do what it was doing, back then. So there's got to be another way,
I agree. And I remember it was called closed circuit when it first started. And I remember listening to the just round by round on the radio. The receiver, every time you turn it, you'd hear, and I had the old school headphones, and my brother would hook it up for me. And we had this at our house, this big old, remember those big old giant stereos where you'd open up the top and he'd plug it in there
I had a
and
record
turn the
player
radio on AM for me. I didn't get the blow by blow, but I had to get the updates after every round. And even as a kid, man, I was cool with that. What's your
it's good
best?
stuff.
It is good stuff. What's one of your greatest moments in boxing?
Obviously, Regis winning the world title, Oshaki Foster winning the world title. Those were special nights. Regis actually won his world title on my birthday, so that was a real special night for me.
The first title or the second time?
No, his first world title he won on my birthday, and it was in
Right on.
Lafayette, Louisiana, and that was a special night. Austin Trout winning the world title, beating Cotto in the Garden. Those are Lou Savarese knocking out Tim Witherspoon was one of my early fights. That when I was training, so that was those nights. They were good, but I just try to stay like don't get too high on the highs and don't get too low on the lows. Just stay level because you're gonna have, like you said, it's a roller coaster. You try to stay level.
Lou Savarese, that was a tough dude. I remember when he got in there with Tyson, and that was a tough dude. He had that big vein right here on his, and then his big old biceps, and Tim Witherspoon, man. I mean, shoot, he had that great right hand. I mean, when Timmy would hit you, and Big Lou was able to neutralize that and take it right to him.
Yeah, yeah, we ate a couple of those too, but Lou walked through it, and we stopped him. So it was a good night for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I like talking some of those old fights right there. What's one of your greatest memories back in the day, the old school fights in the 80s or early 90s?
80s was anything Hagler. Like that was you know, and Ray Mancini was one of my favorite fighters too. You know, all the 80s fights were like, to me, is underrated boxing. A lot of guys were like, even Hagler, Duran, all those guys were labeled as brawlers, but the stuff they did in there was boxing. It was art. It was they were a lot better defensive. Even Chavez, Julio Cesar Chavez, like defensively, they were a lot better than they got credit for.
Absolutely. I was about to say that right now. Julio Cesar Chavez really did not get the credit he deserved for defensively being elusive, his boxing ability, and Marvin Hagler and Roberto Duran would just set traps all day long, and he just knew the sport inside and out. And you talked about Ray Boom Boom Mancini when he first got his title opportunity, taking on Alexis Arguello. After Arguello stopped him, he embraced him and gave him good advice and said, "You know what? You're one of my toughest fighters. You will be a world champion one day." And when I remember when he won the world title, he had that perm going on, and he let those hands go when he got that second opportunity.
Definitely.
And I remember he would have his dad there at ringside, and he fought for his dad, and the whole legacy of the Mancini family, and he came up short against Hector Macho Camacho. I just think he wanted it too much, and took too long of a layoff when he came out of retirement to take on Camacho.
Camacho was pretty special though. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a hard guy to beat.
he's a very hard guy to beat, and what Camacho really never got credit for is coming up, he would knock people out. It's when he started moving up in weight, he was giving up too much mass, too much height, too much reach. So he had to change his style. He made that transition. A lot of people called him a runner, but he did what he had to do to survive. And he would come forward when he needed to. He was a brave, tough dude. And one thing he doesn't get credit for, he had one of the best chins in boxing.
Definitely. So my dad was real close with Camacho. I got pictures with Camacho like at my house when I was a kid, like sitting on the couch watching cartoons with me. So
Oh, that's
those
what's
are
up,
those
man.
are those are cool memories for me.
Yeah, I first met Hector when he fought Julio Cesar Chavez, and I met him at the Hilton. That was off the strip. When they fought at what was it at UNLV, correct?
Yeah.
But I met him when at the Hilton. Now I'm going to tell you this. I'm kicking back and I'm watching ESPN, and they said the arrival of Camacho and Sugar Ray Leonard. I mean, I'm sorry, Hector Camacho and Julio Cesar Chavez. I call my buddy Creed.
Chavez.
And I said, "Bro, let's go." We drove all the way down to Las Vegas. We stood there 4 hours and head back. All we wanted to do was meet Chavez, and we wanted to meet Camacho. So we met Camacho first, and then we were able to meet Julio. And yeah, I mean, those were back in the day when we would sleep in the car just to go see the workouts at Caesar's Palace, and we
Yep.
did what we had to do.
No cell phones. No nobody. No
No,
HD camera in your pocket.
no cell
You-
phone. Even though you try to bring a recorder in there and hold it underneath the newspaper, but you took the risk of being 86th out of that place. And we had Hector Macho Camacho Jr. on the show last year, and when you talk to him, he's very knowledgeable about boxing, very
yeah.
knowledgeable about boxing. And I think he also ran into a couple things um, that Chavez Jr. ran into. And that's when you're there, it's how do you stay motivated to train? And that was one of his downfalls. But as far as mentally talking about boxing, that guy's a boxing encyclopedia, and I'm talking about Camacho Jr.
Yeah, I mean there's another one that developed. There's a guy they took and they developed him and got him, and he had a shot. I mean
Yeah.
he Chavez
No,
Jr. was the same way.
hey, I agree with you completely, 100%. I don't know why my phone's going off and we're trying to record here, but hey, that's what happens when you go
You're
live.
important, man.
What's that?
I said you're important. Everybody wants to talk to you.
Oh man. So how's your day, man? What was your day like today?
Today,
Yeah.
I've got I go to the gym every day at 5 a.m. and I train. I do private sessions, and then from there, the pros usually come in at 9 a.m. And today was stair day, so we ran stairs, and then we come back and we train, and then pick my daughter up. I'm ripping and running all day long. My day doesn't stop, and
Multitasking.
I don't sleep much.
I don't sleep much either. Multitasking.
Yes,
Bobby,
yeah.
what's the name of your gym? Where's it located? And what are the rates? When can somebody go there if they wanted to start working out there? What do you look for in a fighter? And what if you just want to come to the gym? First of all, what's the name of it? And where's it located?
Main Street Boxing, Muay Thai, and downtown Houston, 1612 Austin. Um, Anybody can come. We have like half the gym is women that come just to work out, and then I've got 20 pros we work with, and then we also do my partner Bob Perez. He trains a lot of UFC guys, so he's
Okay.
got Derek Lewis and several other UFC
Big fight
guys.
right.
And then we also do the Muay Thai. We do Jiu-Jitsu, and I mean we've got every single thing. It's a factory we've got. So
Hey man, you're piecing it all together, making it work. You got a busy schedule all the time, doing what you love, and I've said it numerous times. You do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
that's right. And I haven't. We had some like ups and downs, but still not working.
No, I hear you that. When did you know you were going to take this to the next level? When did you know you were going to be a professional trainer?
Um, I mean, probably when I was young, 18, 19 years old. I I was training amateur kids, and I had a couple pros, and I really didn't know anything. I thought I did. I mean, I grew up watching boxing, watching my dad train guys, and then he was matchmaking work. He worked with Top Rank. He worked with Cedric Kushner. He worked, so I was kind of grew up around the game. That's the only thing I really knew. So uh, I can't say like, oh, I knew I was going to be next level. That was my goal to to train world champions, and it took a long time. Like you said, I've been doing this 25 years, and it didn't just happen overnight.
Yeah. There's the time that's put in, the investment that one puts in themselves. Talking about investment, uh, trainer Robert Garcia, when he first met Bam Rodriguez and Joshua Franco, we met him, I believe, when they were kids. Ran them all the way through from amateurs, brought them all the way up. And even then, he knew. And when you go to the archives, I interviewed Bam Rodriguez and Joshua Franco. You just knew there was something special about them. I mean, just their confidence, but their work ethic as well. Bam Rodriguez just had a devastating knockout victory against Sonny. Gosh dang it.
Edwards.
Yes, Sonny Edwards. Sonny came to fight. The best Sonny showed up. Bam was just able to neutralize and dictate the whole fight. Do you see him in pound for pound the top 10 after that victory?
You have to put him in there.
Before. What was that?
You have to put him in there. I mean,
absolutely.
Sonny Edwards wasn't he's not a walk in the park. Sonny Edwards is a real guy. He's a world champion, hard guy to fight. He's slick. He's crafty. You definitely got to put him in the mix.
Exactly. I agree with you. I agree with you. And, for these lower weight classes to finally get these big showdowns, these big where they deserve, where they're headlining and getting the pay-per-view numbers, etc. I mean, these are the action-packed guys. I mean, these are the Ricardo Lopez's back in the day, the Michael Carbajals, Chica de Gonzalez back in the
Johnny Tapia.
Johnny Tapia. Yeah, that guy was just Johnny Tapia had the same energy as Vinny Pazienda. I mean, they just you couldn't turn them off. Once the bell rang, they were on. Right. And even when they went home, you just couldn't turn them off.
Yeah, they're on 10 all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was one guy. Yeah. He looked like Joe Pesci a little bit. But Johnny Tapia, he brought it. He brought the noise. And he had those hands, he let them go. And the lower weight class is they're making some noise. I believe Jordan Cajas will get another opportunity and win a world title. You still got the monster down there. You got the Maloney brothers. And
Maloney guys are good fighters too. Yep.
Yeah, and see, these guys are all great for boxing because they're finally starting to get the recognition in the lower weight class.
Absolutely. The smaller guys have always been, they've always put on great fights. Another one, Orlando Canizales, who trained in my dad's gym. He was, for me, the most underrated champion I've ever seen. The stuff he was doing, he was doing Loma stuff before Loma was even around.
I agree with you.
He was special, and he could punch.
He had that pivot step, the one Mike Tyson would pivot in and step, and before you know it, your whole rib cage is exposed because he put himself in that position. He baited you in to bite, and then he put himself in that position. His hips, his leg work was phenomenal, ahead of its time.
Yeah, definitely.
Man, we could talk boxing all day, especially when you start talking about some names that, a lot of people forget about or overlook. And, Joe Calzaghe. He is underrated. He had people neutralized by his style. He even had Roy Jones, even though it was towards the end, fight his style. And, he brought it. He brought the noise, and he could punch too.
Yep. Definitely underrated.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite fighters, and he was fun to watch. But you already mentioned Marvin Hagler is your all-time favorite, right? I'm going to give you two guesses. Who do you think is my all-time favorite?
You just said Calzaghe is.
I said he's one of them. I said,
okay.
Yeah. All time, just where I studied this guy, I would try to mimic him. I knew everything about him. I watched every interview. I had every paper cut article put up.
Give me a time frame.
He fought Marvin Hagler. He fought Sugar Ray. He fought Duran. He fought
Tommy Hearns.
Yeah, I just gave it away there. I was about to say Juan Rodan. Yeah, Tommy the Hitman Hearns, man. Tommy the Hitman Hearns. His jab was on point. That right hand was on point. And for being his frame, was a great boxer. And it's funny because Sugar Ray Leonard could not outbox Tommy. He would slug with him, but Hearns had trouble trying to outbox Iran Barkley. And see the way styles make fights.
Yep. Well, that was the great thing about that era is you just didn't know what was going to happen. Everybody thought they knew, because he beat him, he's supposed to beat him, but it never worked out like that. It always, those guys, they round robin and None of them really. I mean, not the. Of course, they cared that they lost, but they just got right back in line and went back to work. There wasn't a like now. If you have a loss in boxing, they write you off like, oh, he's done. He can't. Like it's just it's sad that it's got to be like that.
Exactly. I wish we would have got a chance to see some more Salvador Sanchez. Alexis Arguello was always fun to watch. Aaron Pryor, he stepped right in the middle and he was willing to mix it up with everybody. And I wish we would have got to see Aaron Pryor against Donald Curry or Sugar Ray Leonard against Donald Curry or Pryor against Sugar Ray. Those a couple different
dream matches. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Those, well, they were on the list, but they never happened. Exactly.
Right.
Or actually Sugar Ray Leonard was scheduled to fight Pepino Cuevas. Something happened there. So that's when him and Roberto Duran fought. And Pepino Cuevas.
Yeah, another one, Pepino Cuevas.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, 1980, I believe it is, August 2nd, Detroit. Tommy had that right hand, man. I mean, that was kind of made for Tommy. But,
right.
Cuevas took the fight. I can go on and on, man. You know what?
Yeah.
Bobby, how do we follow you? What's your IG? Are you on Instagram? Are you on Twitter? Are you on Facebook? How do the fans follow?
I've got, I've got all of them. I'm on my Instagram is Bobcat JBC, and then everything else is just Bobby Benton.
What do you got to say out there to the young fighter who wants to go to the next level and that's looking for a gym? What advice can you give him?
Stay focused. Don't get discouraged, and know it's a process. Don't be in a rush because it doesn't happen overnight. Everybody sees this success and they think it happens overnight. It just doesn't. You got to work hard, and I mean everybody works hard, but the ones that make it are doing extra stuff.
I agree with you. And it's about timing, being at the right place, the right time. But you put yourself in that position. You put yourself to be ready. You put yourself that opportunity to take the phone call and say, yes, I will take that opportunity because I am physically, mentally ready. And, it comes with an opportunity.
Definitely.
Well, you know what, Bobby, I want to thank you for, taking the time and, coming on the Fighter's Voice, the only voice that matters. We're like you, Bobby. We're simply knocking out the competition. And if you have not subscribed yet, we're going to get to the best part. If you have not subscribed yet to our YouTube channel, it's www.youtube.com/thefightersvoice. Remember, every fighter has a voice and so do you. As always, it's a wrap. Thumbs up for Richie.
Okay, fight fans, it's not goodbye, but until next week. Remember, it's always voiceography at its finest. So on behalf of Richard Ortiz, the special guests, saying hasta luego, babies. And always, thanks for listening.